Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Convergence Healing Podcast. You guys, I love doing this. I was just talking to our guest actually about how much I used to do all this stuff. And it used to take so much work to produce these episodes. And now we do it guerrilla style and we just push the button and record and we talk. It's actually more intimate, more fun. There's no production. I get to have a good time do it and enjoy my guests because I'm not thinking about all the stuff that I have to do producing it. And I'm curious, since that came up as something in my life that I wanted to do something and have more fun doing it. I wonder what you can do to have more fun in your life and maybe go through work or do the things that you like doing without all the other stuff. Who knows? Just a thought. So welcome to the Convergence Healing Podcast. This podcast is about sharing information. I bring guests on who inspire me, who have something to share, who have overcome the obstacles. And today's guest is that. She's an amazing woman. I just met her. I love her. I met her in a business networking group that we have. And it was so fun. She just sort of popped off the screen. And when people pop off the screen, I want to talk to them. So today we have Carolyn Gross. Carolyn, author, speaker, consultant, healer, all kinds of things that you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Peter, such an honor to be on your podcast today. And thank you for being a healing force in this world. Healing forces are needed more than ever. So everybody that's checking in, I like the tone you set already with, how can we make life a little easier and a little more fun? If that isn't the theme we need post-COVID, I don't know what is,
Right?
I think that's one of the bigger lessons of this whole last year, the 2020. And when the clock turned 2020, some of us I'm not a numerologist, I don't have any kind of credential in that way, but certain things kind of sing to me. And 2020, I remember I was like, oh, 2020, this is going to be a good year. Well, I don't know, was it? We'll find out. But clearing up our vision, I think it did. I think, in 2020 vision, right? So I think it cleared our vision, and I think it cleared it right to what, you're talking about. How can we make things a little easier or maybe a little more fun? And if you
Absolutely.
can do that after a pandemic or during or whatever. I exited off the pandemic train early. How about you?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean exiting off the train?
Well, let's make this interview whatever you want. But one thing about working with chaos. So for over 25 years, my mission in life has been helping people stay calm in the midst of chaos, manage chaos with confidence. And the book that I recently published before the pandemic was Rise Above the Chaos.
You have perfect timing with that. That book was there and ready for 2020. That's awesome. Show us the cover.
Okay, so you told me to fan them all out, so I'm fanning here, but we'll start with Rise Above the Chaos, which is there, and then you can see Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos. We'll save these other two for maybe later in the conversation.
So tell us what you mean about chaos. Is this like a personal level that you found your life in chaos, and then you figured it out, and now you share information about that? What does that mean?
Well, what happens when you're born into chaos, but you don't know it, is, you do know it. You know what I mean? Like young kids don't know. So there's a lot of chaos here, but then because they think this is just life, but you kind of do know it. You know what I mean? And I was always looking for quiet time and reflective time. Like I had a soul as a young child. Now we all, we're born with a soul, but a lot of children aren't contemplating at the soul level. I have a feeling you might have been too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of a black sheep, but not a black sheep. That's not the right word, but I was strange to my family, I think.
Right. And the same here. So my work of chaos professionally really came when I burned out at the age of 28. Now, when I say that, that's not that impressive, but let's add a few layers onto it. There were no cell phones. There was no digital age. So I burned out strictly on ambition, hard work, and a lot of fun. The
Well,
hard
that's
work was
something,
first. The
right?
hard work was first.
That's a great thing.
The ambition, I was ambitious. By the way, I was a caterer. So see
Oh,
what I mean? Like hard work and a lot of fun. So that's, and also what happened in that life was, if you are a people pleaser and you're looking for a career, become a caterer, because all you do is please everybody to have the best function, the best party, have
yeah.
the best, right? It's the perfect people pleaser profession. So I was glad I picked it. But when I did burn out, I got serious. I'm like, oh, this really sucks. I have all this ambition and now I'm a freaking mess. So chaos became the great teacher for me at that point in my life.
Mhm.
At 28, I wasn't looking for the great teacher, but it became the great teacher.
Well, I
And
always talk about how our pain is our great teacher, and that burnout is an obvious pain. And it's interesting because you're kind of a precursor. So although you had this burnout experience, you did it before cell phones, before all the pressure of social media and that type of stuff. But I think it's something that younger people today can really identify with. Not the general population, given where we are, but I think it's interesting that younger people are already burning out. I mean, some of them are even CEOs at 19, and by the time they're 25, they're retired or burned out. It's a common thing. I'm thinking that I am observing in my younger friends, that they're just exhausted, and I look at them and I go, "Wow, how did that happen?" So, what do you do if you find yourself in this chaos, like you were saying? You were born into it. You realized what was going on. How did you step away from it?
well, so let me, can I want to answer your question. You know how people don't answer the question, but they say they want to.
Go ahead.
So let's actually talk about the example you gave a minute ago, because about people burning out and being tired, and and the social media pressure. Is it okay if we go there for a minute? Because
Go for it.
I was
Yeah,
I was doing
organic flowing conversation. Let's
I
see
was
where it
doing
takes.
I did a speech for the National Association of School Nurses in 2019. Okay. And so I interviewed 4 different, types of school systems so that I could be ready for my How to Rise Above the Chaos solutions for these women. Are you ready? They were talking about the 3 greatest health challenges, and if you even want to call it epidemics, for school children. Do you want to take a guess at maybe what 1 or 2 of the major health crisis and epidemics was? And this is back in 2019, so it's not too dated, but do you want to take a guess at it, Peter?
I would say anxiety, depression, bulimia, anorexia. Uh,
So so I was with you. I thought for sure one of them was going to be weight related, either obesity or the other end of it. And but addiction, absolutely. Are you ready? Suicide ideation and suicide.
yeah.
They were having an epidemic of suicide. So then I had to dial back and go, why is that happening? And then you just named it. Social media, this generation that's tired, and you're saying burning out, the minute they pick up their phone, their day starts.
Mhm.
Meaning they don't, and especially now after a year of our day starts and we don't go anywhere, everything is Zoom or phone or what have you, but it's all touchless. Here, I'm going to touch you. I hope you felt it. I love you guys. See, again, this is like a non-effect thing, but what it was their pressures And they're like, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? Am I going to get invited, or I'm going to get a role in the school play? Am I going to make the team or the cheer? All those pressures started before they even got to school. So that meant, where is the space for self? Where is the space for self?
I remember being like that when I was in high school, and I didn't have all those the pressures that kids have now. So it's something disturbing that I see, and I see a lot of young people being very, very aware, but not necessarily having the tools to deal with a lot of these issues. Like, how do you deal with building your self-esteem back up, right? How do you deal with loving yourself? How do you deal with anxiety? Now, I'm working on my next book, and that book is called Billy and the Anxiety Monster. And I actually wrote it for adults, but I put it through a child language. My inspiration was kind of the movie Shrek, where you watch Shrek, and if you're an adult, there's so many things that adults are going to get out of that movie, but there's the animation and the story that are great for kids as well, right? So I wanted to frame a book that was approachable to many different ages that adults would also enjoy, because so many of the people I'm running into are already, they're having anxiety attacks at 14, 15, 8, 12 years old. And then their anxiety attacks are leading to suicidal ideation and stuff of that sort.
So
It's
now,
disturbing.
because of the anxiety factor that you brought up, I will tell you about how I got off the Corona train early.
Okay.
Okay. So before the end of 2020, I realized there was a frequency coming through all the news in this update, and then here's what's going on, and here's what you have to do, and here's what social distancing is, and these are the businesses can be open and can't be open. So of course we needed information, because suddenly our world was turned upside down. Boop. So we needed the information, but especially anything that went over to the virus, it had a frequency of fear that was built right into it. Now, why am I talking about a frequency of fear built into a diagnosis of a COVID virus? Well, because, and this was a book that I said we would talk about later, because when I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 18 years ago, after doing my first book tour, I was, it's one thing to find out that little lumpy thing is indeed carcinoma. Then it's another to find out it's stage 3, but it's a whole nother deal when you get in front of a doctor and they're trying to scare you. Oh my God, you've got to take that breast off. Oh my God, we're going to have to do everything. Oh, we're going to have to do everything. And there's no guarantee. I'm like, wow, you guys are really freaking out. Now, I had just been on a 24 city, 18-month book tour for staying calm.
That's awesome. You're very predictive, aren't you?
In the midst of chaos. So when they were coming at me like this over cancer, I'm like, I don't think you're part of my healing team. So I had to monitor during the COVID era here. I had to very closely monitor if those gremlins, we were talking about your painting before we went on to record. And you said, in my painting, I've got demons and I've got angels and I've got a little bit of everything. Well, when I felt all those other like scary, yucky things coming in with COVID, eventually I just said, I'm done. I'm done. I can't contribute any more of my energy or time into this cause.
Got it.
And so
that's getting off the COVID train.
That was getting off the COVID train. Yeah. And then I watched other people have sort of the similar experience of it too. So anyway, maybe somebody here needs to get off the COVID train today. By the way, the COVID train went from the virus to the vaccine. So now we're just on another train and da-di-da. All right, let's go ahead and rise above the chaos and talk about something else though. Yeah.
Well, I love that. The idea, so part of my own personal story, which is why I'm so attracted to what you're talking about, is that the doctors, all kinds of people told me I would never be able to walk again. If I could walk, it would be something very difficult. There's all these diagnoses and prognoses. Those are the worst. The diagnosis isn't as bad as the prognosis. What
Good.
they predict, it's they're predicting what's going to happen in my life. And yeah, okay, they have experience doing that, but I didn't ask for that. I don't really want to know that information. I don't want them to put that into my subconscious. So this idea of rising above the chaos, of healing, of expanding, of growing, and actually creating what I've come to call post-traumatic growth. And that's the experience. Instead of having a traumatic experience happen to us that brings us down, it's a traumatic experience that happens to us that rises us above, that we become bigger and greater than that experience of pain or whatever it is, diagnosis, whatever it is, right? And that's true for mental illness, right? In overcoming mental illness, it's true for physical experiences. It's definitely true for spiritual experiences and pains or traumas. And so I love that idea when we first met, where you were talking about rising above the chaos. And then I'm wondering if you could give us a tool. Like what does that look like? What could someone do right now? I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay. What could somebody do right now if they were in an experience of chaos, recognizing it and saying, oh my gosh, I want to rise above that? What might that be?
Well, my personal path is that anytime unexpected bad news shows up, or even just I'm overreacting. So I differentiate internal versus external chaos. Again, when you study something for 25 years, you come up with all kinds of formulas. But if it's an unexpected external event that shows up and is giving you chaos, the stance that I take is, oh, chaos, you have arrived. I am gonna let you spin me around, maybe tip me down, but I'm gonna move with you. I'm gonna dance with you. And when we're through, I'm going to demand of you that you teach me something that I need to know.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Growing from the pain, learning from it. That's awesome. And I love the approach. I have a similar approach in my practice. I always call it befriending the disease or the dis-ease, making it your friend, right? The part of you. My cancer clients taught me that. I had a time where I worked with lots of cancer clients, and we started actually loving the tumor and giving the tumor love. And in doing that, suddenly they healed. It was pretty great. Instead of it being the enemy and them being the victim to it and that type of stuff, changing that formula, that perception, and loving it, embracing it, like, oh, there it is. There's Bob, my anxiety. There's Sally, my trauma. It just showed up. I just got triggered. Hey guys, how are you? Instead of running away from them, saying, what do you need? And dancing with them. I think that's just a great metaphor. I hadn't heard it said that way before. So I love that idea of dancing with your chaos.
And when you ask for one simple, technique for somebody that's in chaos right now, you already brought the answer when you talked about the cancer patients. The answer to cancer is love. And love and self-love. So when I burned out way back in that early day, at 28, I had to then suddenly protect myself from my ambition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm pouring myself some of my happy tummy tea, so it's not that I'm not paying attention.
Can you fill my cup?
I would love to. Here.
I want some of your tea. Thank you.
Well, you gave me a great segue, because you could get it at convergencehealingteas.com if anybody is interested in. We have our happy tummy I'm drinking today, and our sleep better, and our anxiety reducer all that kind of stuff. But go ahead, tell me a little bit more. I segue.
I knew that, so if somebody's going through burnout at an early age and they're wondering, or just even depression and a loss of hope, futility in what the future holds, there's all different generations that have been sort of hit with that this last year. Well, once that experience happened for you and for me, right? Your need to heal, you realize suddenly I have to take care of myself with whatever my life mission is going to be here. You know, so if I'm going to be the best realtor, or if I'm going to be the best actor or musician, and, you know, we know performing arts, this is a dangerous kind of environment to be able to take care of yourself, because you have so many temptations.
So much criticism too. Yeah.
Criticism, and also just lots of opportunities that might not be available if you're not traveling the world. But this idea of having boundaries and having a sense of self-love, and also curbing the ambition so you don't let it ruin your life. So I want to tell a story about when I started as a motivational speaker. And one of the things I love about my hat as a speaker is, first of all, you always have good hair. So I love having good hair. But second of all, you get to hang out with thought leaders, right, subject matter experts, and some of the greatest minds of the country. So even if somebody has an interest that's so far away from mine, I still get stimulated with really passionate minds and people. Well, anyway, I heard this guy speak 20 some years ago, and he had a way to put it together. You know how we see that in people, right? You and I. He had a way to put it together. Fast forward that we just had a virtual conference for this association, and he spoke. And I thought, oh, I've got to see him. I've got to watch his program. And remember, now everything's remote, so you can pick and choose. I want to see that one. I don't want to see that one. At a live event, you know, it's awkward to do pick and choose. But now we are uncensored. And so what happens is he gets on there to do his program, and he's sitting there one more time, just wowing my socks off. And the next thing you know, the people asked him at the end of the program, again, fellow colleagues, professional speakers, they said, you know, gee, what was the biggest, thing that you learned in 2020? And he started, you could see the emotion before the tears came out of his face. He turned like pink. And you're just like, what's happening? You know, because this genius mind had just orated and gave us great content. And then he goes, can you ask another question? But he's all choked up. And then, of course, he goes back and answers what had happened. And it was, in fact, cancer. And it was, in fact, the kind of a diagnosis, and you know, where Rod had to be put in his legs, and he's in a wheelchair now. So we didn't know that. You know, again, if we had been at a live event, here's a place, I'm going to make a point within a point here. Here's a place where we are separated from each other, that a lot of the details of life are missing. You know, I'm watching this brilliant man, but I don't know he's in a wheelchair. You know, and that's the thing. We do need to be together as people, because we pick up a lot of cues. We also receive a lot of gifting when we're together face to face. Okay, enough of my plug for being together as human beings. But what happened was, in his crying, as he talked about the cancer, he literally told us that his life, now that he was facing death, he felt his life was a failure because he had put all of his energy into being successful in his company, in his career, and he had failed marriages and children that said, Dad, I didn't want the money. I wanted softball with you on Sundays, or football or basketball or surfing, fill in the blank. And when he did that, I had one of those moments where here was somebody that I envied, that their career had gone on this huge trajectory and they didn't have an interruption like stage 3 cancer 18 years ago. But yet because of my self-care skills, when I had my time at the plate, I was able to self-care and not regret. Do you know what I mean? When I was diagnosed, I wasn't crying like he was crying. And so I think, everybody, that COVID is trying to align us more to our humanness.
Oh
And
my
like,
gosh, yes.
and like Peter saying, oh, honey, this isn't going to get edited. Like if something happens awkward and you belch, it's going to be there for the whole world, because I'm not knocking myself out. You know, I'm doing my good work, but I'm not going to burn out on perfectionism. What will they think? What will they say? And I want to say another thing about chaos, and then please, any other questions you have. But there's something about being patient in the midst of crisis and crises when they come one after the other. Okay. Because, you know, that the lesson of my burnout, I mean, after I saw this man and realized what a heavy heart he had, that he had failed. I mean, this is a really successful guy, but his soul. So listen, everybody, your soul has to be feel successful as much as your career, your reputation, and your bank account.
I'm right there with you. I think true success is a soul level success. I don't think true success is finances and money and accumulation. I think true success is I came into this earth to do a purpose, to have a purpose, to do something, to learn something, to achieve something. And that, when I achieve that soul purpose, that is my success. Even if I'm working in the direction of that learning, that is my success. And that's how I look at that success. I don't look at it as a monetary thing. You know, money comes and goes. Money's an object. Success is a soul level experience. So on that note, unfortunately, we need to wrap up. It's our time flies already. Thank you so much for sharing all your goodness with us. Tell people where they can get in touch with you, and just flash those books one more time if you'd like.
Sure. So if you Google my name, Carolyn Gross, I should come up with my company, Creative Life Solutions. Do you need to rise above the chaos? Do you need to stay calm in the midst of chaos? Or do you have something in your life that you're afraid of? Well, guess what? It's treatable and beatable. Right. CreativeLifeSolutions.com.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. I so love having you as a guest. I look forward to getting to know you more. We're practically neighbors now, so
that's right.
I look forward to
that
excuse.
Happening.
And thank you to everybody who's listening. Please share all of our other videos. We are on primarily YouTube, so you can share a link with anybody. We're also on Facebook, so you can connect with that. It's always the Convergence Healing. If you find me, it's convergencehealing.com, youtube.com/Convergence Healing, at Convergence Healing, all of those places for any of our social media. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for being part of my world, and I'm sending you lots of love. Namaste. Ciao all. And bye-bye.